Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to tonight's Committee of Adjustment hearing. It's being held by video conference and live stream video on the town's live stream webpage at oakville.ca. This is a hearing to consider applications for minor variance and consents held under the authority of the Planning Act. Please keep in mind that the intent of this process is to review the application that is before the committee, listen to the evidence, and then make a decision. This process is not intended to be used to resolve any concerns or disputes that may exist between the town, individuals, or organizations. If a request for a deferral is made and the committee grants such a request, the applicant authorized agent must contact the Secretary Treasurer to schedule a new hearing date. In order to conduct an effective and efficient electronic hearing, we have adopted the following process. If you're watching the live stream of this hearing on oakville.ca and you wish to speak to an item on the agenda, you can call 905-815-6095. Again, that's 905-815-6095. The phone number will also be listed below the live stream page at oakville.ca. Staff will be standing by to take your call, and when you do call in, staff will ask for your name and item number that you wish to address and your telephone number. Further instructions will be provided for you to join the conference call. When the chair of the committee polls for interested parties, you'll have to press *6 to unmute yourself. The applicant or agent will also be given an opportunity to briefly explain to the committee the basis of their application, answer any questions that may arise. A maximum of 5 minutes will be provided for each presentation. You will need to state your full name and address for the record. Any submissions beyond the 5 minutes will be at the discretion of the committee. All delegations must state their full name and address for the record. A maximum of 5 minutes will be provided for each presentation. All remarks and questions are to be directed to the chair. Any submissions beyond the 5 minutes will be at the discretion of the committee. The applicant or agent will also be provided with a further 5 minutes to respond to any comments made by interested parties, answer any questions from the committee members. If the applicant or agent has any concerns found in staff report, particularly any proposed conditions, this will be the opportunity for you to advise. The matter will then be taken into committee for a decision, and this will mark the end of all discussions. Any person desiring a notice of the decision for any application must provide a written request, preferably through email, to the Secretary Treasurer. Written notice of the committee's decision will be mailed no later than 10 days for minor variance and 15 days for consent to the applicant and or agent and any other person who has filed a written request for such notice. The last day of the appeal of this decision to the Ontario Land Tribunal will be noted on the decision. Only the applicant, specified persons, or public bodies may appeal the committee's decision to the Ontario Land Tribunal. Please note that in November of 2022, Bill 23 legislation, the More Homes Built Faster Act, amended the Planning Act to remove appeal rights from members of the public. If no appeal is received within the prescribed timeframe, the decision of the committee becomes final and binding. The Secretary Treasurer will then notify the applicant and anyone who has received a copy of the decision through written correspondence. We ask that people participating in this hearing are to be courteous to and respectful of the members of the committee, town staff, and any other person participating in this electronic hearing. Tonight's electronic hearing is being video recorded and available for future viewing at oakville.ca. Thank you. Welcome to the first Committee of Adjustment hearing of 2026, everyone. We have one regret. Mr. John Castle is not with us today. Do I have any declarations of pecuniary interests? Okay, I see none. Madam Secretary Treasurer, is Mr. Dickey not here?
Madam Chair, Member Dickey is having some computer issues. He plans to join. We may have to visit regrets if he can't join in, but he's trying right now.
Okay, thank you. All right. So no pecuniary interests. I'll ask him when he joins us. Requests for deferral, withdrawal of applications. I'll be taking those at this time. Anyone who is seeking to withdraw an application or defer an application, please raise your hand and the Secretary Treasurer will invite you in to speak.
David Stickney is joining.
My Zoom keeps freezing.
Okay. I'll, Susan, do you want to log off and log back in again? Maybe that'll fix the issue. If it doesn't, I'll keep lookout for you to make sure that before we do have any motions that you are with us. I don't know how much of that you heard.
I haven't heard it.
Okay. If it happens again, maybe log off and log back on again.
Okay. I'm doing it again.
Okay. And I'll keep a lookout for you when we're in motions to make sure that you're not frozen. And we just got Mr. Dickey on board. No pecuniary interest, right? Okay. Okay, it looks like Ms. Price is frozen again. Okay, Mr. Stickney, who are you here to represent?
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Can I be heard?
Yes, I can hear you. I can't see you, so
That's
maybe
fine.
turn. Okay.
Sure. I represent the application for 540 Sandbrook Road.
Yes, that's application 007 of 2026.
Right.
Go ahead, sir.
And we wish to defer for a few reasons, one of which is to do further studies on the property and further to meet with planning staff to discuss that material.
Very well. Very well. Members, all those in support of a deferral? Okay, the application has been deferred. You'll see the Secretary Treasurer at your earliest convenience.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Have a good night. Next.
Ted Harrison is joining.
Hello, can you hear me okay?
Yes, good evening, Mr.
Okay.
Loxton. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm here representing A002 of 2026 at 246 Jones and asking for a deferral so that we can speak to planning staff and come up with I guess, a more agreeable proposal.
Very well. Thank you. Members, all those in support of a deferral? Okay, the application has been deferred. You'll see the Secretary Treasurer at your earliest convenience.
Sounds great. Thanks very much.
Have a good evening.
You too.
Peter Voss Ikas is joining.
Yes, hi, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, Mr. Vazakis.
Yes, we'd like to defer the application A005 2026 based on the facts that we were not given enough time to adjust the plans to satisfy the staff planning comments, and we will work closely with the staff planner, Colin Westerhoff, to see if we can ensure a more closely fit design to satisfy the zoning and planning guidelines, and also stay in contact with the Secretary Treasurer for the next available hearing date, and as well to pay the deferral fees.
Very well, thank you. All those in support of a deferral? Okay, the application has been deferred. Ms. Price is frozen again. I don't know if someone from IT can reach out and Okay, your application has been deferred. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have one more request for deferral. It's Carol Jin will be joining.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
I
go
don't
ahead,
know
Ms.
why.
Jin.
Okay. Yes, I like on behalf of my client, who are the owner of 227 Karen Croft Road. We like ask for deferral because we needed more time to work out a revised scheme in talking to the neighbors and planner, community planner.
Very well. So you are aware of the 4 letters of objection that we are in receipt of, and you'll take the time to speak to the neighbors as well.
Yes.
Very well. Mr. Talowski, you have something to add?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, when I visited the site, the notice sign was not posted, so just information to the applicant that it's their responsibility to make sure the notice sign is in place for the full required period. Had they not sought a deferral tonight, it would have been deferred anyway due to insufficient notice. So if they can make sure next time the sign is up and stays up.
It's on the tree. Maybe we'll check again. Yeah. We post a sign, but we check. Maybe it could be the wind or something. Yeah.
Yeah, just make sure, because if you are prepared to be heard next time and there is insufficient notice, as Mr. Talowski said, we would defer you and you wouldn't be heard.
Okay.
So make sure you follow the guidelines that the Secretary Treasurer has shared with you, and where it's appropriate to post the sign, and so that there's no issues next time.
Okay. So you're saying the sign is there. We posted I think 2 weeks.
So what we're saying is, if it's not there when any of us visit and it hasn't been there, then we have no way to ascertain that it's been there for the entire period of the notice that it's supposed to be. So at that point in time, we have no recourse but to defer you. Do you understand?
Okay.
That's our rule. So you have to make sure that it stays there for the entire duration of the time until the meeting is heard.
Okay, understand. Yeah, we will.
Okay, so all those did we already make a motion? No, right? All those in support of a deferral? Okay, the application has been deferred. And I note again that Ms. Price is frozen. Okay, are those all the deferrals for this evening? I have 4 counted, correct?
Yes, that's correct, Madam Chair. No, I'm showing no more hands.
You're showing no more hands. Okay. All right. There are no consent applications for this evening, so we'll proceed with the first matter on our agenda, which is application 001 of 2026 at 299 Church Street. I will note there is 1 letter of opposition from the HSCC Randall residents, and then there's a rep that's seeking to speak. We have Richard Nataljan as our agent.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I'm Rick Intelligent of SMDA Architects, and we're the agents for the property owner in this instance. I'd be happy to. There we go. Thank you. I'd be happy to present this application and take you through this. This is a long, narrow site. It's on the north side of Church Street, just east of Trafalgar. Our proposal is to create a 4-story, 6-unit apartment. In this instance, the main floor the main floor is effectively parking. Because of the nature of the site, the dimensions of the site, the provision of parking has been challenging. And so, how we've had to accomplish this is through the provision of an automated stacked parking system. The numbers of vehicles that can be accommodated through that system, it certainly increases the ability to provide parking, but not to the extent that the zoning bylaw allows. So we're before the committee this evening to ask for 4 variances. The first variance is in respect of the numbers of parking, whereas in a typical sense we'd require 1.25 parking spaces per apartment. In this case, we're asking to provide 1 parking space per apartment for a total of 6 parking spaces on the site. We're asking for relief to not require a visitor parking space in this instance. The bylaw would typically require 1, and we're asking to provide 0. There's also some variances in respect of the dimensions of the parking spaces. In the case of automated parking systems, the town typically requires that the bed that the vehicle will sit on is the same size as a typical parking space. In this case, that's impossible to provide. The manufacturer, we've had numerous discussions with the manufacturer and with a parking consultant, and they believe that the smaller parking bed size is not an issue, that vehicles can still get on and off and maneuver practically. But we're asking the committee for a reduction in that parking bed size. And the fourth variance that we're asking for is not in respect of the parking, it's in respect of the main floor height. The bylaw typically requires a main floor height of to the second floor of 4.5 meters. That would usually be appropriate in instances where there's a commercial development on the main floor. In this case, there is no commercial development on the main floor, it's only parking. And so there is no requirement for that height, and we're asking to slightly reduce that main floor height. So those are the 4 variances that we're before the committee for. We've had, as indicated, we've had extensive conversations with the manufacturer, with the supplier, with planning staff. We actually went with planning staff down to visit a couple of projects in downtown Toronto that our parking supplier had worked on. So staff have a very good idea of the way the systems work. Staff were, I think, very happy to see that, and staff are in support of our application. So I'd be happy to answer any questions, and I would ask you for your support.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Metalgan. Did you see the opposition letter from HSCC residents?
Yes, I can give you some information and some background there. This building backs onto the Randall residence, which you will know is an existing luxury apartment building in downtown Oakville. We had prior to this project, 299 Church Street, our project has actually been in development for some time. It was in development when that project, the Randall, was being constructed. We actually had some conversations at that time. Let me do something here. We actually had some conversations at that time with the developer of the Randall about the balconies, and we had adjusted our balconies to suit them. We brought our balconies back to suit them because our balconies and their balconies are effectively kind of back to back at that point. We'd be happy to have conversations with the condo corporation to look at some options for screening there and so on. That's not an issue. That seemed to be their biggest concern, had nothing to do with the parking. Was the balconies, which are not part of this variance application.
Oh, okay. From reading their letter, I think they had issues in terms of parking, but if you seem to not feel that way, that's fine.
Yeah.
Any questions of Mr. Metalgan at this time, or items of clarification from committee members? Okay, I see none. I have a question of planning staff with respect to the things that the neighbor complained about in terms of easement in and out and screening and parking. What does town staff feel about that?
Good evening, Madam Chair. The subject of the proposal is not actually subject to a site plan application. So in a scenario where the proposal is in compliant with the variance in the zoning bylaw, the applicant would go straight to a building permit. So the property to the rear would not be receiving any notice. But to their comment, there will be a site alteration permit where grading would be addressed. But in terms of parking, it's not, when I read the letter, it's not more so about the number of parking requirement. It does appear to be more of the screening and the impacts. And the building to the rear is also higher than the building that's being proposed. So those would be
Okay,
my
well, that's
comments.
helpful. That's helpful.
Yeah.
Thank you. And it's helpful
problem.
for the members of the public listening to this application as well. Okay. Has anyone called with interest for this application, Madam Secretary Treasurer, or has sought to speak by raising their hand?
No, we've had no calls and no hands.
Very well. If there are no questions of planning staff or Mr. Metaljan, we'll take the matter into committee. Okay, I see none. Who would like to move a motion? Go ahead, Mr. Dickey.
Madam Chair. Based upon my review of the owner's application, site plans, building elevations, my site visit, the presentation by the owner's consultant, and the planning staff's report, I am satisfied that the variances are minor in nature and conform to the 4 tests of the Planning Act. And I put forth a motion that the application is applied for be approved, subject to the conditions. Sorry.
Mr. Dickey, do you have another line open? Because there's a bit of an echo. I wonder.
I don't know. I'm having computer problems. I know that. Let me see what's going on here.
But you don't have the COA meeting on in the background on another computer or telephone or TV. Sometimes we have an echo like that.
I'm just seeing what's going on here. No, it still echoes?
Okay, now it sounds fine. So.
Oh, okay. Okay, I changed something.
Okay. Okay, so you were going to read the conditions, so go ahead.
Unfortunately, I have problems that I can't get to the conditions. I wonder if somebody could read the ones that are submitted there.
Sure. The conditions are that the parking layout be established in general accordance with the submitted main floor area plan dated April 2026, and the traffic impact brief prepared by GHD and dated October 30th, 2025. And then the second condition, that the approval expires 2 years from the date of the decision if a building permit has not been issued for the proposed construction.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, is there a discussion on these, on the proposed approval with these conditions? Okay, I see none. All those in support? Okay, the application has been approved, none opposed. Thank you both.
Thank you very much. Good night.
Good night. Feels like I hear this clicking noise that someone's getting into their car. I feel like someone's trying to escape. Okay. I see Mr. Castillo is ready. This is application 003-2026 at 231 Margaret Drive. Again, this is application 003 of 2026 at 231 Margaret Drive. Go ahead, Mr. Castillo.
Good evening, Madam Chair and members of the committee. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, go ahead. Thank you.
Yeah, my name is Gerardo Castillo from Keystone Home Designs. I'm appearing on behalf of the homeowner for 231 Margaret Drive, and we're here to request approval for 2 minor variances for a 2 new-story detached dwelling. If the staff can go to page number 3, I'll go through the first variance, which is for the garage area. We're asking for a maximum area of 54.9 meters versus the 45 allowed. And this is, as you can see on the drawing, this is entirely to do a tandem garage configuration. So from the street, it looks like a two-story, sorry, like a two-car garage. So there's no increase on width or increase on the mass of the building. So it's just for functionality purposes and for storage and maintenance space for the landscape. The staff have confirmed that the variance is minor and appropriate. So we believe this is a very minor variance. And then the second variance, this is to increase the floor, the GFA from, we're proposing 42.33%, where 39% is permitted. It's just a difference of 3.33% or 29.04 meters. If the staff can go to page number 4, you can see there, I guess, the proposed 3D images. On the top images, you can see the front. And you can see that what we did to reduce the mass and scale of the building, we did the second story setbacks. We have different heights in the building. The right side, sorry, we have the entrance and the study. It's they're like a single story with higher ceilings, so that reduces also the mass and the perspective from the street. So it's not a bulky and aligns with the urban design guidelines. And if you can move to page number 5, you can see the top right picture. That's the proposed site. It's an existing bungalow. And you can see the immediate area, how a lot of the houses already have started doing these big homes or larger homes. As you can see on page number 6, the top 2 houses are used on the side street, on Murray Street, pretty large in scale. And the ones below, as you may be aware, it's just across the street on Dorval. These houses were made by Fembrook quite a few years ago, and they have townhouses and detached homes, quite large. So the whole streetscape is changing in this area. So that's why we believe that our proposal is minor in nature. The staff has no comments on it. And there's no letters of opposition. So based on the staff support and the merits of the proposal, we respectfully request approval, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Castillo. Any questions from committee members? Items of clarification? Okay, I see none. Has anyone called with interest for this application, Madam Secretary Treasurer?
We've had no calls and no hands.
Okay, thank you. All right, we'll take the matter into committee. Who would like to move a motion? Go ahead, Ms. Price.
Taking into account my site visit, the various reports from the agent and staff, and there being no letters of opposition, I believe the variance is to be minor in nature and are in keeping with the general intent and purpose of the official plan and zoning bylaw, and is desirable for the appropriate development of the land. I agree with the agent and staff that the application meets the 4 tests of the Planning Act, and I recommend the application be approved subject to the following conditions. That the dwelling be constructed in general accordance with the submitted site plan and elevation drawings, reference REF 1 dated 10/10/25, and that the approval expires 2 years from the date of the decision if a building permit has not been issued for the proposed construction.
Very well, thank you. Is there a discussion on this recommendation? I see none. All those in support? Okay, the application has been approved and none opposed.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you.
Okay. Application 004 of 2026 at 435 Willis Drive. Again, that's application 004 of 2026 at 435 Willis Drive. I have Mr. Kolbasenko here as the representing agent.
Hi,
Go
good
ahead.
evening. Good
Good
evening.
evening.
Tom Kolobasenko here from our Cool Blue Architects. This is a matter of 435 Willis Drive in Oakville, Ontario. I'm representing Mr. Kevin and Iris Jung on this project. Is my presentation up? Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Okay. If I can have the first slide, please. Okay, so we're seeking 3 variances on this project. The first one is to increase the garage area from 45 square meters to 58.13. That is to allow a tandem garage, so 2 regular double garage from the front and an additional parking space in the back of the garage to allow for storage and utility space. The second variance is to increase the residential floor area from 41% to 44.5 to allow the desired design for this family. And a third one is to increase the lot coverage from 35% to 37.1. And those are all, we believe, fairly minor variances. We have no, as I understand, we have no opposition from the neighbors. There's been no correspondence, and we've received staff support from town staff on this application. So we understand there's no opposition and no real major concerns. Next slide, please. Just to quickly walk through the site. This lot has quite a bit of topography on it, and actually struggled a bit. We were gonna consider asking for a height variance, but we ended up consulting with our trusted surveyor, Robert McConnell, and he was able to advise us that we are okay to work with the grading as is, but the lot will require a little bit of a grading, especially in the front, to allow for the new house to be constructed. The lot is essentially a bit of a molehill. It's high in the middle, low at the front, and low at the back. So we will be leveling it off a little bit without affecting the adjacent neighbors. Next slide, please. So fairly standard design, nothing really to speak to this one. We do have a rear covered porch, which will also be excavated in the basement, but it's a covered rear porch, so majority of the lot coverage variance is related to the rear covered porch area, which at the back. Next slide, please. And then in a floor plan, you can see the tandem garage, which is variance number 1, the rear covered porch in the back, which is variance number 2, and the rest of it is just a modest increase in the floor area that we're requesting. Next slide, please. We've done our best to consolidate the massing in the way that the mass of the structures steps down and is not oppressive to the adjacent sites. So there is quite a bit of roof on either side of the house, on the left and on the right, as well as at the back. The rear covered porch is a single-story structure with a fairly large low slope roof on it. So the massing is mitigating the effects of the additional square footage which we're requesting. Next slide, please. And this is just a roof plan showing much the same. It is a sloped roof, and the slope of the house is slightly reduced at the very, very top, so that, but it's still a slope roof throughout. Next slide, please. These are just elevations. Do you mind reloading the slide, please? Can you hear me okay? Okay, maybe just the internet connection. Anyway, the massing is such that the second floor steps back and the roofs are providing a little bit of relief for the adjacent neighbors. Next slide, please. Here's the two side elevations, again showing the massing stepping back on the second floor and over the garage, and then the covered porch in the back being a single-story structure. Next slide, please. For some reason, it's not loading in my screen. Slide 10 appears to be blank. I'm not sure why. Okay, slide 10 is supposed to show an arborist plan. If you can go back one, please. Okay, it's for some reason it's missing from the PDF. This was just showing the arborist report plan. I'm not sure why it's not showing up on the PDF, but essentially it's only one tree is affected on the site by the proposed development. The rest of the trees is going to be remain intact. And the final slide is just a little rendering of what we envision this house to look like. So it's a prairie style, transitional modern aesthetic, which will fit well into the neighborhood. My presentation. Thank you.
Great.
I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions or items of clarification of Mr. Kolbasenko? Okay, I see none. Has anyone called with interest for this application, Madam Secretary Treasurer?
We've had no calls and no hands showing. Thank you.
Okay. Who would like to move a motion? Go ahead, Mr. Talowski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, I'd be pleased to move that this application be approved as applied for. Finding that it meets the tests of the Planning Act, I don't believe the variances being requested will cause any impacts. I do note that there is no objection from the community. I'd make that approval subject to the two conditions, that the dwelling be built in general accordance with the site plan and elevation drawings dated 25/11/12, and that the approval expires within 2 years if a building permit has not been issued.
Very well. Thank you. Is there a discussion on this recommendation? See none. All those in support? Okay, the application has been approved. None opposed. Thank you
very much, Madam Chair and committee members. Thank you. Have a good night.
Good night. Okay. Application 134 of 2025 deferred from October the 2nd of 2025 at 149 Balsam Drive. And we have Mr. Michael Barton as the agent. Again, this is application 134 of 2025 at 149 Balsam Drive. I will note that I have 3 letters of opposition on hand and a request to attend. Go ahead, Mr. Barton.
Good evening. I did submit a presentation. If we can have that.
Should be up shortly.
Okay, so I'll go through this as quickly as possible, just mindful of the time. I wanted to provide enough detail in this presentation to accompany the application, and I am mindful of the letters that were received. So if we can go to the next slide. Again, the property we're looking at is 149 Balsam Drive. We can see the property location on that aerial that's shown on the right side there. So the property has 22.2 meters, that's 73 feet of frontage. So we had heard some concerns about the width of this property. The depth does provide an area of just over 1750 square meters. It's a low density residential designation, an RL1-0 zone. Next slide, please. Again, on the left side, we can see a view of the dwelling and the existing driveway that's there. So there is a variance that's with respect to the distance between the driveway. So we can see the photo there of that existing U-shaped driveway and the space between. And then the aerial map on the right shows the property and its context to its surrounding. Next slide, please. Again, in terms of the neighboring properties, so there was a question in one of the letters about the photo. So what I had meant to provide were these two photos. So there's the photo on the left shows the dwelling at 153 Balsam. So that's the property immediately to the north. The dwelling that was there prior to the new dwelling construction. And on the right, we can see the house that is now there. So we can see the change that has occurred through construction on that property. Next slide, please. And then the property immediately to the south is 143 Balsam. So we can see on the left side that dwelling that has been constructed on the property. On the right side, we can see the driveway location, and both photos show the setback of that dwelling from the street. Next slide. This map has been provided to give an idea of lot fabric in this neighborhood. So what we can see is a variety of lot frontage, depth, area. Again, so in terms of there being a consistent neighborhood character, I don't believe there to be one other than there being generally two-story single detached dwellings on individual lots. Next slide, please. So the proposal is to demolish that existing dwelling that's there today with the new dwelling to be constructed. It's been designed with consideration for the surrounding character and also to accommodate an additional dwelling unit. The front and rear walls have been placed to align with the rear and front walls of the adjacent dwelling to the north. Again, that dwelling to the south is set back quite far from the street, so that is a relative anomaly to the street. Again, the property provides a significant amount of rear yard open space, especially with the removal of the existing garage in the rear yard. Next slide, please. So we had discussed this with staff. So as noted, this was a deferral of the previous application. So this was the original proposal with the site plan on left, the front elevation on right. If we can go to the next slide, please. Based on discussion with staff concerns about the massing and the scale, we've eliminated the windows above the second story, removed the chimneys that were on the side. So they had quite a bit of mass. We'll see that on the next slide. The massing of the second, can we just go back? Sorry, reduction of the second story relative to the first story. The interior side yards have been increased. The height was reduced and the garage floor area has been reduced. So if we move to the next slide, the variances now what we see are that the height went to 9.5 meters from the original 10.21 meters. The south side yard setback has gone to 2.49 meters from 2.4. The north side yard has gone to 1.82 from 1.2. The garage floor area has gone down to 59.25 from 62.81. The dwelling depth did increase slightly, but so it goes to 26.1. And then we added a variance that was not captured the first time around. This related to the distance between the driveways. And next slide, please. So here's the revised proposal, and then the site plan and the elevation. So the next slide, if we go there, we'll show the front elevation comparison. So staff had identified this in the staff report as well. Again, the changes I had noted that we worked with staff on to help reduce that overall scale and massing. Next slide, please. So the variances now, as they are before the committee, are 1 through 6, as staff have noted. So staff have identified that they support variances 2 through 6 and recommend refusal of variance 1. We are, in speaking with the applicant, the owner, we're willing to remove variance number 1 and maintain the existing driveway. So we would not have variance number 1. So that would leave the remaining 5 variances. Next slide, please. And there's the staff recommendation as I indicated. Next slide. Just some of the relevant details that I had provided in staff report, that the reduction in the south side yard is generally consistent with what we've seen in the neighborhood, and that it's also important to consider that large front yard setback that's provided at 143 so that you have a significant spatial separation between the proposed dwelling and the dwelling on that property. The north side yard setback is consistent with what we see in the neighborhood and other approvals, including the south side yard setback on that reconstructed dwelling at 153. The lot coverage is significantly less than permitted. The front and rear yard setbacks are being complied with. And then we also have a very deep lot, which allows for accommodating the dwelling without requiring variances to such elements as front and rear setbacks, lot coverage. Next slide, please. I identified 3 decisions in the immediate neighborhoods that were on file. So 153 Balsam had an approval of the dwelling depth of 27.73 and an interior side yard of 1.88. 167 received a maximum dwelling depth of 26.97, a garage floor area of 80.75 square meters, and a building height of 9.75 meters. And then 185 has a height of 10.06 and a garage floor area of 69.77. Next slide, please. So in terms of the tests, as I'd identify, my opinion is that the variances, when considered individually and cumulatively, do meet the general intent and purpose. The dwelling, in my opinion, will preserve and enhance and protect the land use and built form characteristics of this neighborhood. The dwelling has been designed to exceed the minimum front and rear yard setbacks. We've provided the additional setback, side yard setbacks in conversation with staff to provide the transition to the neighboring dwellings. And the same with the height form massing of the dwelling, in my opinion, is consistent with the character. And next slide, please. Again, we see it through the decisions that we see a height, setbacks, garage floor areas, and depth that are consistent with what we've seen other approvals in the neighborhood and overall the built form in this area. And next slide, please. In terms of the zoning, I had just pointed out here, again, not to go through everything that's here, but I've identified in my justification report. But my opinion is that the intent and purpose of these regulations is being met through the variances in terms of the considerations for the character of the neighborhood. With consideration for the height, we see the dwelling does taper down towards the sides of the property before reaching the side yard setbacks. That helps with the height as well as the location and massing towards the side yards. Next slide, please. Same with the garage floor area has been brought down again, it's been integrated into the dwelling, so we've been able to reduce the overall scale and massing, and the garage is also not projecting from the front of the dwelling. And then the dwelling depth itself, again, we have a significant amount of lot depth, which helps to accommodate the dwelling depth. Next slide, please. Minor in nature, again, just that my opinion is that what we're seeking relative to the as a right performance standard is not going to result in adverse impacts to the character of the neighborhood or neighboring properties. So we are seeing the height tapering down from that peak height towards the side property lines. There was a question or concern raised about the north side privacy. That there is, when you look at that north side elevation, there are a limited number of windows provided on that elevation to help to control the privacy concern. And then again, we're also bringing down the overall height and massing before reaching that side yard. The massing is mitigated by the open space on the property as well. So in my opinion, the variances when considered together are minor. And then next slide, please. Desirability, in my opinion, the variances are going to facilitate a dwelling that's appropriate within this context when you consider the existing and permitted planned residential uses. With the revisions we've made in conjunction with staff, my opinion is they're going to achieve a built form height, scale, and massing that's consistent with the neighborhood character. and the dwelling is going to benefit from the lot depth and area, as well as a proposal that's able to accommodate an additional dwelling unit in this footprint. And then, so with that, next slide is just my conclusions that the tested variants are met, and on that basis, I would request that the variances be granted.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Barton. Any questions or items of clarification of Mr. Barton at this time? Mr. Dickey, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. To the consultant, I'm kind of fussy about setback, but I acknowledge that your lot is narrower than the 30-meter wide lots that are typical of this neighborhood. So I looked at the zoning bylaw and looked at the next zoning category down and saw that that category at RL2 has 22.5 meter minimum lots, which is similar to the frontage of yours, and their side yard setback is 2.4. But you complied with that aspect on the south side, but on the north side you haven't even complied with that. You're at 1.82 meter side yard setback. So even when I look at it and say, okay, you deserve an exception to the zoning bylaw because your lot is narrower than the standard lots relative to that zoning category of the RL3 in the neighborhood, but you still haven't complied with it. You still haven't complied with, in my mind, it's 2.4, which might be suitable, 2.4 meter setback that might be suitable, having regard to the width of your lot. So, like, help me out here, because I'm opposed to it. If you had both of them at the 2.4 meter, I might be thinking different. If you got a 73-foot wide lot and you still are squeezing, you're going to have a very wide house with very little space between it, and you're just pushing the envelope. So help me out here.
Well, I guess yes. So the house has been designed with consideration for, I guess there's an orientation concerning which side has the garage, which side is the non-garage side. The lot does expand out in width as you move from the rear. So it's not regular width of lot towards the front. So that does result in, like, just looking at the site plan, the dwelling actually, or the south side yard is variable, going between 2.9 and that 2.49. So again, it's a consideration for how the dwelling fits on the lot. And then in terms of when evaluating the design, there was a review of similar dwellings and approvals that were considered appropriate for this neighborhood as well. So those were the considerations that were taken in terms of citing that, and then also trying to provide a footprint that works without having too much lot depth, or sort of building depth as well, because then you get into how the rear walls and front walls align with the neighboring dwelling. So those considerations come in terms of evaluating just that overall fit with that within its context.
Why can't you comply with the 2.4? If I was to say the 2.4 meter setback was acceptable to me, why can't you comply with it? The house to the north is on a 50-foot wide lot. Yours is on a 73-foot wide lot. The examples that you cited, I didn't look into how wide those lots are. So if they're wider than, or if they're narrower than your lot is, then you see what I'm thinking. I'm looking at it and say, okay, I'm going to have some relevance to what the width of your lot is. And if the next one's down, the 50-foot wide lot, maybe I should be looking at the 18 meter, the zoning category that has 18 meters, and see what those side yard setbacks are. So when you come up with examples and you're trying to bring forth an example about other variances relative to side yard setbacks, tell me what the frontage is. Otherwise, I'm just, that's nothing. Unless you give me more information, that means nothing to me. I'm looking, the only thing I know is that I acknowledge the house to the north has a 1.8 meter setback on its south side. So the two of your houses, this house is built, are each going to have 1.8 meter setbacks. Not very spacious, not like the rest of the neighborhood that to the greatest degree is at 4.1 meter setbacks, I assume. So I'm really having a problem with this.
Yeah, and I think just for clarification, the lot to the north does have smaller side yards than's proposed here because it is the smaller lot. But I certainly take your concern, your question. I think it's it's certainly balancing off considerations like looking at neighborhood context. So, for example, applying a side yard from a different zone, as you suggested, if you looked at maybe a 2.4 that comes from another zone, that would be this. That's not the zone that we're in. So again, it becomes it's certainly perhaps something to look at. But I was looking at from the perspective of the zone that we are in, being a consideration. Also, built form context. So what's there today and what has been reviewed and approved, in recent decisions. So those elements certainly come in, and then it's looking at how do you accommodate. Like I said, this property providing an additional dwelling unit, trying to provide a footprint that allows that, working within the building or the lot width, and also trying not to have too deep of a dwelling that then doesn't align front and rear walls. So again, those are the considerations that come into, I guess, if you want to look at that, it's sensitivity analysis as you're playing around with where the footprint comes in. But certainly it comes down to design decisions that are made when the proposal comes together.
Thank you.
Mr. Towalski, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a number of questions. Mr. Barton, you've referenced a couple of times usable footprint and design decisions. There's a 12-foot wide foyer in this house that runs the full length, both floors. It seems to me the design decision here is to create this largely unusable and unnecessary space at the sacrifice of the required side yards and impacts to the neighbors. So how do you justify you need the side yard variances for usable floors, footprint, floor plate, when it seems that some of these space is excessive and you're choosing to make things wider at the expense of the side yards?
Yes, so the additional dwelling unit that I refer to would be a basement unit, so that's certainly a consideration as well. In terms of the interior floor space, it would have been a design decision in consultation with the owners that the architect had done. So I don't really have input on why that foyer was designed that way. Certainly it would be to the preference of an owner as opposed to having a greater amount of second floor area, perhaps. In this case, they're not requesting floor area, or it's not required in this case. But again, it would come down to design preference of the owners, and then when looking at how they could accommodate a dwelling within the context of that existing and context of the neighborhood. So I don't really have feedback on why the foyer has been designed that way. Certainly there's always any home could be squeezed somehow to try and make it smaller. It would have been a design decision. How do you work within that footprint? The architect had gone and modified the footprint to come up with the revised dwelling that we brought forward to make it work. So that's in terms of the interior layout, that's really all I can comment on.
And one of the neighbors makes the point that you've chosen to take the most significant side yard variance on the north side, where there's already a reduced side yard, and have a wider on the south side, which has no impact on the adjacent dwelling because it's set significantly back. Is there a reason why the narrower side yard is the side that's adjacent to the closest building?
I think it's for access to the garage. I think because you have the straight property line on that side, that it allows for more convenient access in and out of the garage. That's would be my understanding. So then lining it up with where the driveway is located. So we have that existing driveway location. For the most part, the driveway will align with what is shown here. It is going to be a greater distance apart than was proposed. But again, it's working with the configuration of the lot, where we have the consistent property line versus that property line that tapers off.
Okay, and I guess most significantly, when this application first came before us, I was concerned about the scale and the mass of this house. Significant two-story walls near the street, extra height. I acknowledge that you went back and made a significant amount of changes, but the changes, you reduced the scale slightly, but in my opinion, you did nothing to address the issue of mass. You just took the same design and made it a little smaller. Why have you come back again with largely nothing but full two-story walls, no attempt to bring any roof line down to mitigate the mass? I acknowledge that the second floor has now been set back, but it's a nominal setback, and the second floor, every line mirrors the first floor. So from the side elevations, even though the second floor is smaller, it's going to read still as just complete two-story walls. The house to the north that you reference, it received a minor variance for side yard setback, but its second floor, roof lines come down. There's peaks in it. It's got dormers. It's not a two-story wall. So why have you chosen to come back without addressing, in my mind, what's the key issue here is the mass of the building that's inappropriate for this neighborhood in that location?
Well, I guess I would maybe disagree with that there's not been, significant change to the massing. Sort of understanding, I guess, where you're coming from is the appearance from the side yard. So, in terms of massing, the appearance, those chimneys did add massing if there's a difference from overlook. So, understanding that chimneys don't contribute to an overlook, but it contributes to the overall, if you want to consider it like the idea of the cube that you're looking at, or just the overall, I guess, massing of it. Pulling those chimneys off allowed the second story to be then brought in as well. So it was a combination of elements there. So again, it's a considerable change to the design, as well as removing the windows from above the second story. So that helps with privacy and overlook as well. So I think there is always more that could be done. I think the architect, and then sort of circulating it back and get, with staff as well. We were of the opinion that there had been a considerable amount done to help bring down the scale and massing and get the height to something that worked with what's going on in the neighborhood. And considering that as you move towards the property lines, the height actually gets down below the 9 meters. So that was really the design intent of the changes that were made.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, you're on mute.
Yes, I just realized halfway through my thought process. I was going to say I have to agree with Mr. Talowski. Often we see a request for a moderate or modest residential floor area increase, but respecting all the side yard boundaries and the other interior boundaries. But here it just seems like you pushed the envelope as much as you could just to respect the residential floor area, thinking that it would be okay. And I don't see that benefit versus really looking at the whole picture and trying to come back with a proposal that mitigates as much as possible, taking into consideration the environment and the neighbors. And that's my opinion anyways. Anything further before we open the floor to the interested parties that have sought to speak to this application? Okay. Madam Secretary Treasurer, is there anyone in the audience who's raised their hand? Or I know there's a request to attend and speak from Mr. Thomas and Jean Foucault. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly.
Yes, we have 2 hands up. I'll start with Mr. Rory Melansis.
Okay.
Hello.
Hello. Good evening.
Hi, good evening, everyone. So I am the owner at 153 Balsam, which is the property to the north of the applicant. So I just wanted to reiterate, obviously, everything that was said by the committee this evening in terms of the variances or the setback, variance number 3, which is the setback on the north side. You know, we're very much in agreement that 1.82 or 88, whatever it is exactly, is really not quite appropriate. You know, as we sit here and look across at the property, we can't imagine having a house that close to us. So I think that really our concern is twofold. The one is, well, threefold actually. The one is, you know, having that infringement of our privacy. I think having a house so close to us is certainly something that we wouldn't desire from a privacy perspective. Second reason, we also are quite concerned about the light and the shadowing that this building is going to create. And thirdly, if I look at the windows on the north side of this property, there seems to be additional windows that have been placed there from the previous application in October. Further to that, the window itself is probably 4 times the size of the window that we have on our side. So, you know, for those reasons, in addition to some of the concerns that have been raised by the committee, is really the essence of the opposition that we've submitted. And I also think, you know, in agreement with the overcrowding point that was made, you know, the point around the fact that our lot width is 50 foot. Therefore, the variances that were approved on our property in 2022 are not comparable in terms of a 73-foot lot. So really, those are our concerns around privacy, around overcrowding. I don't feel that it's really in the spirit of this side of Balsam. And yeah, I think overshadowing as well is a problem. So thanks. Thank you for your time. I appreciate you listening.
Thank you.
Now I will move Mr. Thomas Foucault into the meeting. One moment.
Good evening, Madam Chair. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, go ahead.
Hi, good evening, Madam Chair and committee members. So Thomas Foucault, I'm owner of 148 Balsam Drive, so exactly across the street from the applicant. And we wanted to join this evening to register our opposition and concern. So 2 committee members, I think, already made the point. We have concern with the bulkiness of what is proposed, that it's only marginally different from what was submitted in October, but it doesn't change the substance of how much the proposed design would densify the area, and it's really at odds with the rest of the neighborhood. other points I think have been made, so I leave it at this, and we just wanted to make our message and position very clear for everyone. Thank you for the time and consideration.
Okay, any questions of Mr. Foucault at this time, or Mr. Rory, or items of clarification from the committee members? Okay, Mr. Barton, I'll give you an opportunity to respond to these concerns and comments from the neighbors, and then we'll take the matter into committee for a decision.
Yes, certainly. I from what I've heard, the comments are consistent with the written submissions that came in and the concerns that have been raised in the discussion here. So I would just reiterate that, when the design that's been done for this lot took into consideration, the built form that's in this immediate context. When you look at what's been built recently or still being under construction on some of the other properties, looking at balancing off, the width of the lot with the dwelling as it relates to the street and how the height and tapering of the roof works. But I think otherwise I had provided my thoughts and feedback on the concerns as it related to the height and massing and how it works within this context. Thank you.
Any other questions from the members? Okay, I see no comments from members or staff or anyone else. We'll take the matter into committee. Who would like to move a motion and get the discussion going?
I will.
Go ahead, Ms. Price.
Okay. Taking into consideration my site visit, the various reports by the agent and staff, and the opposition of the neighbors, I believe the proposed application be denied. The variants are not minor in nature and the four tests have not been met. The lack of mitigation to the mass and scale have made the proposed dwelling appeal larger than other homes in the surrounding neighborhood.
Okay, so the proposal is to deny the application. All those for the denial. Okay, and so the application is denied and there is none opposed.
Thank you.
Have a good evening. Okay. Application 143 of 2025, deferred from October the 29th at 139 Cavendish Road. Again, that's application 143 of 2025, deferred from October the 29th at 139 Cavendish Court. And I have Paul Demchek here as the agent.
Good evening, members of the committee, and thank you, staff, for pulling up the presentation. Perhaps I'll jump right into it. So, yes, my name is Paul Demchek with Vittori Planning and Management. I'm here on behalf of the owner for 139 Cavendish Court. Next slide, please. So the subject site is obviously located at municipally address 139 Cavendish Court. It's in Southeast Oakville, just near the intersection of Lakeshore Road and Maple Grove Drive. You can see, obviously, from this aerial photograph, the lands are pie-shaped in its lot configuration with a single detached dwelling that currently occupies the site. The site is within a stable but evolving low-density neighborhood. There are obviously many recently reconstructed dwellings in the area, and vehicle access is currently provided from Cavendish Court. I'll note that many of the dwellings on the street feature 3 vehicle garages. Actually, if I could take you to the next slide. These are images both of the existing site just in the top left, and then 2 of the neighboring properties. There's a total of 17 properties on Cavendish that front onto Cavendish Court, and I'll note that 13 of them have these projecting 3-car garages, and then obviously varying roof lines. In some instances, you have peaked roofs, and in some instances, you have mansard roofs and flat roofs as well for a number of the properties. I'll note as well that these projecting 3-car garages obviously reflect an era in which they were constructed, however, are obviously legal non-conforming to the current zoning bylaws, as this is not a standard we typically see for new projects. If I could take you to the next slide. So the owner is proposing to redevelop the site with a new 2-story residential dwelling. The dwelling will include 1 private attached garage, as well as a landscaped area in the rear yard, which will feature a new outdoor swimming pool, a deck, and pool equipment shed for the property owner. And the dwelling obviously complies with the floor area ratio and lot coverage requirements of the zoning bylaw. And I'll note that the existing trees located outside of the proposed dwelling footprint are proposed to be maintained. And obviously a tree protection plan will be incorporated into the development as part of future permit applications. It was noted that the application was deferred from October of 2025. And I'll specifically note just that the variance for height has been removed entirely from the application, and design modifications have been implemented to resolve other previous zoning and planning staff concerns. So as such, only 2 variances are being sought this evening. If I could take you to the next slide, please. So first I'll start with just the existing side yard setback. So in this zone category, a side yard setback of 4.2 meters is required, whereas 3.7 meters is proposed. And I'll note that this pertains only to the north side yard in this instance. I will note that the southern side yard in this case actually has a side yard setback of 8.99 meters, which is obviously well in excess of the zoning bylaw. I will note that one of the members, I believe it was member Dickey in the previous application, did have concerns related to side yard setbacks, and specifically noted with like having regard for the width of the lot. And so in this instance, I will note that the overall dwelling width complies with the intent of the zoning bylaw, given the typical requirements within the RL1 O Suffolk zone. You have one side yard setback that is obviously greater in excess from the zoning bylaw requirements, and obviously one that is slightly reduced. I will also note that reduced setbacks are found in the immediate context for other pie-shaped lots on the cul-de-sac that front Cavendish Court. So just for example, 141 Cavendish Court has a side yard setback of 3 meters, and 147 Cavendish Court has a side yard setback of 1.8 meters. I will also note that the proposed side yard setback, and you can see on this plan, it actually improves the existing condition. So you can see the existing setback in this instance is actually just under 2.5. It's 2.45 meters from the side yard, and the new proposed setback is 3.7 meters. And this is only for the front portion of the dwelling. You can see as on this north side, as the building goes further to the rear of the property, you can see that that side yard setback condition significantly improves. You can see it goes to 7.4 meters towards the rear of the property. Next slide, please. So regarding the maximum dwelling depth, I'll note that the required dwelling depth is 20 meters, whereas the proposed dwelling depth in this instance is 24.1 meters. In this instance, you'll see that's highlighted in yellow. The majority of the dwelling, and frankly, all the first and second floor, like above grade portions of the dwelling, actually comply with the 20-meter requirement. And so it's only the basement which has the excess in dwelling depth. And that basement obviously is located primarily where that dwelling depth occurs is at the rear of the property. You can see in essentially I'll call it the wings, the two wings of the dwelling. The grading of this property changes significantly. As you get from the front to the rear, it drops as you get to the rear of the site. And you can, from that perspective, you can obviously see that there's obviously a walkout condition. And from a massing perspective, the additional dwelling depth, again, is primarily located below grade and will not impact the dwelling from an overall massing perspective. If I could take you to the next slide, please. This is just a front elevation and one of the renderings that was shown as part of the application submission package, just to demonstrate the architectural intent for the building. And that concludes the presentation. I'm before the committee and to answer any questions, should there be any. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Demchak. Questions or items of clarification of Mr. Demchak? Go ahead, Mr. Dickey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I appreciate your comment, but I never thought about that. When you said that having regard to the wide setback on the south side, the width of the house would comply in a sense. I appreciate that comment. I see what you're saying. It's something that never occurred to me before in the future on other properties. I'll look at it. I don't have much of a problem with the setback on the north side because now with this new interior regulation, the legal setback would be 3.78 anyhow. So it's not as concerning as maybe what I was thinking before. I do have just a couple of questions. They don't really relate absolutely, but on the let's call it the bird's eye view. There's a cut into the north side of the house with 3 circles on it, and then there's another little thing with a circle on it. Could you tell me what that's all about?
Oh, on the north side. Oh, yes. If I could ask staff to go back to slide 4, I believe it is, of the presentation. And just to ensure that I'm answering the question appropriately, you're speaking of those circles towards the center of the dwelling. There's 4 at the top and then 1, I'll call it, in the middle of the dwelling.
Yeah, thank you.
So those are entirely just an architectural expression, and those are interior courtyards that the homeowner just wishes to achieve as part of the design. So those will be exterior spaces, and obviously those images show tree planting is what's intended within those courtyard elements of the building. Obviously, it's a more modern architectural expression, and that's obviously the expression the architect and the client are hoping to achieve with this.
Okay, that wasn't obvious, but yeah, thank you. Okay, that's it for me. Thank you very much.
Any other questions? Okay, has anyone called with interest for this application, Madam Secretary Treasurer?
We've had no calls and no hands.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we'll take the matter into committee then. Go ahead, Mr. Dickey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Based upon my review of the owner's application, together with the presentation by the owner's consultant and the planning staff's report, I am of the opinion that the variances are minor in nature and conforms to the 4 tests on the Planning Act, and put forth a motion that the application as applied for be approved subject to the conditions that that the dwelling be constructed in general accordance with the submitted site plan and elevation drawings dated December 1st, 2025, and that the approval expires 2 years from the date of the decision if a building permit has not been issued for the proposed construction.
Thank you, Mr. Dickey. Is there discussion on this recommendation? I see none. All those in support? Okay, the application has been approved, none opposed.
Thank you, members. Have a great night.
Good night. We have application 165 of 2025, deferred from December 10, 2025, at 1382 Tensley Drive. Again, this is application 165 of 2025 at 1382 Tensley Drive. And we have Miss Ida Evangelista as the representative.
Good evening, Ida Evangelista.
Good evening.
Okay, I think we're in business. I can be seen and I can be heard.
Absolutely, go ahead.
Okay, we were before you back in December. Unfortunately, the sign was taken down, but we are now back. I would like to just do a presentation on this property, just so that I can go through and explain the variances that we are asking for. If staff could take me to the variance page where I show. Page 3. Perfect, thank you. Okay. So our first variance is regarding the maximum projection beyond the main wall for uncovered access for the stairs. Those are the stairs at the side. The stairs themselves, the variance is taken to the edge of the wall, and that's why we have a variance of 1.78. However, taken to the interior of the stairs is 1.5. We do have that retaining wall which is the construction of the stairs. I will add, though, that even though that we do have a variance of the uncovered portion of the stairs, it does not impede on drainage, access, landscaping, or side yard separation. Our side yard on that side there, because you can see that the lot is quite irregular, and the side yard is 4.98, even with the stairs, because that is to the edge of the wall. So that is variance 1. Variance 2. Now I know staff wrote some comments about this particular application, but I just felt the need that I just wanted the opportunity to explain why we are in front of you. This is currently approximately 1,000 square foot home with a growing multi-generational family. They want to stay in the area, and what they're trying to do is, what they would like to do is just to build a second story to accommodate their growing family. So that being said, and especially now with everything that's been going on with cars and whatnot, they just feel safer if they had a garage. As you saw from the pictures of the subject property on the first page, you know, there are cars that are parked in the driveway. So this allows them to park in the garage and enter into the house. The variance that we are requesting of 3.69 meters is at the very southeast of the corner of the garage. The setbacks then open up to 4.70 meters, 7.07 meters, and 9.43 meters. So it is, as I mentioned, it is quite an irregular shaped lot. They have stepped back staff, I did speak to the planner this afternoon, and we have had conversations. So the garage, because of the step backs and the massing, the garage is stepped back 5 feet 7 inches at the back, and it is stepped back 3 feet at the front. So it does create that undulating front facade. Our front yard setback of 6.3 meters, that is to, if you can notice at the front of the house, there is this architectural feature which breaks up the front facade of the house. So that front yard setback is taken to that architectural feature. However, to the front main wall, because we did create a small, even though we've created a small addition to the front of the house just to allow for a more appropriate interior floor space. So the front yard setback from the front lot line to the front wall is 7.52. And from the front yard setback from the front lot line to the front wall of the garage is 8.44. So the front yard setback, so that if I were to remove that architectural feature at the front, we wouldn't have a front yard setback variance. That's what's causing that variance. But you know, in speaking to that, that does give that does add some nice architectural feature to the front. We have the different types of, we have the stone, we have the brick, and there's some portions of the stucco. I know planning and we had the conversation that should this be approved, you know, I can always, planning and I can always talk and talk about the different, you know, facades, because there is wood veneer, there's different materials that are being used for the front of this house. So the second floor addition is right over that footprint that you now see. So, and again, what this allows this, so now this will allow the family, the multi-generational family, to each have a bedroom and, you know, have some of their own space. And as I mentioned, it does step back at the front and it does step back at the back. This is what we're proposing. This is a 2-story that is permitted in the low density residential area. It is found throughout the neighborhood. And if staff can go to the page where I took just a sprinkling of pictures of neighboring properties in the neighborhood. That's the backyard. There we go. So as you can see, the homes in the neighborhood, and what we're proposing is same and similar to what we're proposing at 1354, 1374, 1295, 411 Sharon. And this is just what I took of photos just in the extreme immediate vicinity of this particular home. We comply with the building height. We comply with the lot coverage and the floor area ratio. It does not introduce a built form that is oversized relative to the evolving context of the immediate area and expanding area. We do, you know, there are the homes that you're seeing in front of you, they propose larger facades, taller roof forms, longer building depths, greater visual presence than what we are proposing on, you know, renovating the existing dwelling that is there. And I would just like to state that this is consistent with the evolving neighborhood. It does reflect typical 2-story reinvestment that is, as you're seeing, pales in comparison as what you're seeing that is occurring in the neighborhood. It does maintain a appropriate transition to the adjacent neighbors. The neighbor to the north, we have the neighbor to the north, and then we have the neighbor to the south. And I respectfully submit that it does maintain appropriate transition. It respects the height and the coverage, as I mentioned, and it produces no measurable or adverse impacts. I would also like to add that we have received letters of support from 1381 and 1385, who is directly across the street. 1374, which is the house immediately to the north. 1392, which is immediately to the south. 411, which is across the street and at the corner. And then behind, the house directly behind at 1379 Thornhill. And also 1380 and 1386 Thornhill also have provided a letter of support. This all being said, I respectfully submit that the application that is in front of you does maintain the four tests and does maintain purpose and development of the OP. And I'm open to any questions that you may have.
Okay. Is that Ms. Evangelista, give me a second. If staff can just pan out of the oh, see everyone. Okay. Questions of Ms. Evangelista? Items of clarification? Go ahead, Mr. Talowski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. There's no doubt this is a constrained lot, and you're going to need variances of some nature to do anything other than what's there. I understand that, and I understand what you're trying to do, but similar to the previous application tonight, it just seems like you're trying, even though it's constrained, you're trying to overbuild to fit a size that your client's looking for, as opposed to put the effort into trying to mitigate the potential impact because of this nature of this lot and the need for reduced yards. So I guess a similar question to ask earlier tonight, why haven't you attempted to put in some design elements to try to mitigate the mass of what you're trying to build here?
Through you, Madam Chair, Member Michael, we reviewed the application. I understand, you know, what your comment is, and I know looking at a side yard, looking at a setback of a rear yard setback of 3.69, you know, can be somewhat undue, you know, you're taken aback by that number. However, in this particular instance, the home that they have that is a community where they want to be. And, you know, I had a conversation with Riley, and, you know, although, you know, it doesn't really speak to the planning principles, I also took into consideration the family and the dynamics, them being in this home. They're now at a point where, you know, this is a home and a community where they want to remain. And for us to create any further setbacks that takes away from their living ability in this home. And now, you know, under these economic times, this is a home that they have that they can afford. And now they're at a point where they can actually afford to renovate, to remain here. And as I mentioned to Riley, for us to, you know, because we have stepped back, we've created, I respectfully submit that the massing on this property pales in comparison to what I've seen in the neighborhood. I went to the neighborhood several times and I drove around, and what we're proposing, and I know if you take a look again, as I mentioned, that 3.69 is only for that one corner. That's it. The lot does open up. We are, I've explained that front yard setback, and for what we're basically keeping the box of the house, and all we're doing is adding additional living space above the garage. And if for us to step back, and again, Riley and I have had many conversations, to step back the house at the side, at the front, at the rear, it'll take away from the living space. And I can understand, this is a particular situation, and staff knows that when I can work with staff, I most definitely do, in all ways, shapes, or forms. This is a house that they have. Unfortunately, it's on an irregular shaped lot, and we're trying, and we have scaled it back, and that's why we pushed it in at the garage portion at the second level, so that it is pushed in at the back and it is pushed in at the front. So it does create, it does deter from the massing of that home. And then also adding the architectural features at the front of the house does also, soften the look of the house. So, obviously I don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. And I'm just trying to, I'm trying to work with staff, and that, one of the comments that I made to Riley is, because even the comments about the material selection of the front facade of the house, which absolutely we will most definitely work with staff to decide on whatever it is that they would like to do. That's, we're willing to do that. But I just don't want to, I'm trying to basically keep them in a home that they can afford and give them the space that they need with, something that is much smaller than what is seen on the street, as you saw from the photos. I know that's a long answer to your question. So
I asked that, the pictures that you did show were are larger houses on much larger lots as well. So that has to be.
If we could straighten out this lot, it would be a very different story.
Yeah. The comments you're making about we can work with staff to do this and that are usually the comments we get when people are seeking a deferral. We don't negotiate design at the committee level. It's either an approval or a denial of what's being proposed. I question, you had the unfortunate notice provision, but I think at the time you had a negative staff report. But have you changed the design since then? Have you worked with staff to say, look, if you step back this back corner where you get this short rear yard setback and get rid of that design element to, bring the front yard into compliance, then maybe staff could support it. Have you had those discussions, or did you just come back here and because staff were just opposed? And I'll ask Ms. McKnight the same question. But
yeah, we did have the discussion. We did. But just as I explained just now to you with the family dynamics and, the variances, because I do respectfully submit that the variances are desirable. Riley and I did talk about, we would have to do a whole new, I would take it a redesign. I don't know how we could step back the house and still meet the demands of the family. Is basically we're at an impasse, right? As I mentioned to Riley, and she'll concur, there are a lot of things that we did discuss about the family dynamics, about the home, the situation of the home. We went to the neighbors. We did talk to the neighbors in front, beside, and behind, and they were all okay with what we're proposing, which to me I feel that that's quite integral because they have to live there with it, right? So I feel that that's very important. And that's why we did the neighbor reach out to see, you know, what their idea was and what their sense of this was. And they signed a letter of support, no problem at all.
Okay, thanks.
I'll leave it to Riley now.
So I think I hear what I think I hear you saying is you met with staff had some suggestions that could get them on board with the application, but you're unable to comply with the suggestions that staff had.
Well, what I could do is then I've just actually sent a message to the owner, because if we defer, my fear is I'm going to be coming back to you with I don't know that I would be able to come back to you with a better proposal, right?
No,
you know, I could take right now, I could remove that front yard variance off I can remove that variance completely, and then I could even remove the side yard of the side stairs, and then we would only have the variance of that back corner of 3.69.
But respectfully, Evangelista, you've been with us before. You know the drill. Like, if this was your intention from the beginning, we shouldn't have sat through this presentation. You should have just asked for a deferral and worked with staff. I don't think that you had that intention coming in, and you knew that you didn't have favorable support.
Madam Chair, you're absolutely right. I know that, you know, the report that I read wasn't favorable. The conversations that I had with planning, you know, making the explanation, there was, you know, our verbal communication, you know, the views were there in the sense that, yes, the front yard setback is only because of that architectural feature. That rear yard setback is only to that back corner of that home. If I do defer the hearing and I do make changes to the hearing, and then it's a catch-22, basically.
Yeah, well, you can't make
I know
those changes on the fly without us having something to approve attached
100%.
with drawings, right? So
100%. I totally understand. I totally understand.
okay. Any other questions? Or Ms. Riley, did you had something to say? Yeah, or comment to Mr. Talowski?
Yeah, through you, Madam Chair, staff acknowledge and sympathize that this is a tight lot to work within the zoning regulations. But it is the variances proposed are resulting in a built form that, in staff's opinion, is not compatible with the existing neighborhood as a whole. Many two-story dwellings in the neighborhood incorporate variations in the roof line and step backs of the second story to provide for breaks in the massing. And we see opportunities to accommodate these measures to break down the massing and scale of the dwelling so that the desirability test can be met. So if it is deferred, we are happy to meet and have a conversation on design to get it into a place where staff can support.
Okay, I'm going to defer. It's not fair. It's not fair to the owners. You know, young couple, and they basically have everything on the line here. So I don't think it's fair that we go forward and risk. The reason, Madam Chair, you know, not to be here wasting everybody's time, I really, with the greatest of respect, the 3 variances that are in front of us, I really do not see as egregious. And that's why I proceeded. Had I thought they were egregious, as you know, Madam Chair, I've been in front of you before. I've always worked with staff. In this particular situation, I will ask for a deferral.
Okay, respectfully, I have a huge problem with agents who know the process, who've been with us before, that come in and test the waters and knowing that they are seeing the writing on the wall, that we're not buying what they're selling. They, after gone through this entire process, then put the white flag up and say, we want a deferral. I personally have an issue with that. And I would not support the deferral. So it's up to the rest of the committee members. But it's not fair to other people who stick by the rules and have the discussions they need to have with planning staff when they need to have them, and not test the waters and then tailgate it as quickly as they can when they see that it's not going their way. So that's my opinion, but I am one of a panel. So if you are formally requesting a deferral, which I heard you say, I will put it before the committee and they can vote on it. So Ms. Evangelista is requesting a deferral. All those in support of the deferral? All those opposed? Okay, well, this comes in with a tie, and I had to vote because my opinion was already said. So, Madam Chair, Madam Secretary.
Yes.
Can you remind me of the procedural bylaws in the event that there is a tie when a deferral is requested? Where do we go from here?
Certainly, if you could just give me a minute.
Sure.
Thank you. Madam Chair, the motion is defeated.
Okay. So we have to do another motion, or? Okay, that's fine. So someone else has to put up a motion other than myself. Go ahead. Mr. Talowski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, despite me voting on the motion to defer, and I absolutely respect all your comments made, it was a tough one, but having said that, that motion to defer failed. So the issue on the table now is the application that's in front of us. And Madam Chair, the application that's in front of us, I do not believe is minor or desirable. As I said, I appreciate this is a constrained lot, but there has to be some effort put into mitigating the impact of the variances, not just planning to whatever size an applicant is looking for. I don't see that effort's gone in. Sounds like staff tried to work with the applicant. I am concerned that the applicant said we defer and might just come back to the exact same application again. That serves nobody any good. So, Madam Chair, based on the failure of the deferral, but what's in front of me today, I would move the application be denied, as I don't find it to be desirable in its current iteration.
Okay, the motion is to deny the application. All those for the denial? All right, and the chair abstains. So the application has been denied, and we'll see you when you have a better application, Ms. Evangelista.
Okay, thank you.
Have a good evening.
You too.
Okay. Okay, the last application on our agenda tonight is application 166 of 2025 at 466 Morden Road. Again, application 166 of 2025 at 466 Morden Road. Mr. Barton.
Thank you very much. I do have a presentation. I'm in the committee's hands about how much detail that you would like me to go into. So this is a matter that was deferred previously. It relates to one variance to the required parking for a proposed sports facility. The deferral related to staff seeking a qualified professional to undertake parking analysis to make sure that the requested ratio was appropriate. So we have provided that. My justification report went into that in detail. Transportation staff have indicated in the staff report that they're satisfied with the reduced parking rate and that the parking supply can accommodate the demand of the proposed facility. And they've also noted that that there's the illegal agreement that the owners have secured with the neighboring property is going to provide additional support for the parking. So I guess there's the two elements, that they're satisfied with the reduced rate and proposed supply, and also with the illegal agreement providing the additional level of support. I'm happy to walk through this presentation quickly just to provide the details on that. So if we just go to the next slide, please. Again, the property here, 466 Morden Road. It has the two-story multi-unit building on the property. There are 24 surface spaces there today that serve all of the uses in the building. And the zoning does permit the sports facility that's proposed. Next slide, please. So we could see on the left a view of that building in a portion of the parking area. The aerial on the map shows within the red the subject property and the available parking. Next slide, please. So a number of parking utilization surveys were completed. They were done on half-hourly basis during study periods that were agreed upon with town staff. What was seen there was a peak demand of 10 spaces for that entire building that was observed. So that during that peak period of demand, there were 14 vacant spaces on the property. Next slide, please. The property that's to the north is known 470 to 480 Morden. So this is the property where a parking agreement has been secured. So it has a two-story multi-unit building as well. The owner has worked with staff on identifying what the parking requirement is in that building based on the existing uses. They had come to a requirement of 36 spaces with an existing supply of 50s. So that left 14 spaces surplus to the zoning requirement. Next slide, please. The parking utilization study was done during the same periods on this property and found a peak demand of 41 spaces. The greatest demand occurring generally between 10 and 1 a.m. on the weekday study period. That left 9 vacant spaces during that peak. Next slide, please. So the proposal is for the 1 unit to be converted to a sports facility, 342 square meters. There is a key element to this is the variability in peak parking demand. So there are classes that are held at set times with limited number of participants in each class. And again, when they looked at the parking utilization in this building, there's a parking requirement of 15 spaces for the units without Unit 1, which leaves 9 spaces available for the proposed facility under the zoning. Next slide, please. So proxy sites were used. There were 2 sites that were looked at: Radix Gym and CrossFit Radix on Spears Road, and then the F45 facility that's on North Service Road in Glen Abbey. Again, based on looking at these proxy sites, the maximum demand that was seen at both sites during the study periods was 21 spaces, and that was a rate of 1 per 22.1 square meters. Outside of that peak period, the parking demand dropped off significantly. If you apply that peak demand to the proposal, you end up with a peak parking demand of 15.5 spaces. So if you round that to 16. Next slide, please. So the variance that's being sought is to bring down the parking requirement for the subject property based on the ratio as required is 1 per 38 square meters, seeking 1 per 18. The proposal also includes this parking license agreement with the neighboring property that secured 10 additional spaces. But as noted, the parking utilization studies is indicating that the property actually is able of accommodating the proposal when you're looking at the staggering of peak periods and what the measured peak parking demand was during those parking utilization studies. But again, that additional parking at 470 to 480 Morden Road has been secured to help ensure there's an additional supply available. And next slide, please. So again, I'm not going to go through these details unless absolutely necessary. It's just reiterating the fact that there is a staggering of parking demand. What was surveyed as a peak parking demand for a fitness facility of this type versus the time for peak demand of the other uses in the building. So that does allow a sufficient parking on the property when you consider that when the peak occurs for the other uses. And again, so staff did accept that the proposed rate would be able to accommodate the facility in conjunction with the other uses in the building. Next slide, please. So again, I just provided now my opinion with respect to the variances. I feel that it does maintain, or the variance, it will maintain the intent and purpose of the livable Oakville plan. The existing supply is able to accommodate the peak demand. When you take into consideration typical peak period demands for the proposed use and the other uses in the building, then in conjunction with that, the owner is securing off-site parking to support that. It is an area of pedestrian and transit-oriented development, and then this area will allow, or this proposal will allow for more efficient use of the existing surface parking area in this area. Next slide, please. Again, the intent of regulating parking is to ensure that there is an appropriate level of parking when you take into consideration the combination of the individual uses. So my opinion is the parking utilization surveys have demonstrated that the property is capable of accommodating the demand associated with the proposed facility in conjunction with the existing uses, and staff review have confirmed the opinion that it's an appropriate parking rate. Next slide, please. So on that basis, my opinion is the variance is minor. The peak demand for the facility will will not overlap with the peak demand for the other uses on the site. Again, the parking utilization and proxy sites have indicated that, again, you're going to see that staggering of that peak demand throughout the day as it relates to the other uses on the property. And then finally, next slide, desirability. I've noted that the variance is it's allowing for a more efficient use of this property. You're accommodating a sports facility use in the building in a manner that is compact and supports transit pedestrian-oriented development. The parking demand has been demonstrated to be appropriate for the property, even without securing that off-site parking. And the proposal really limits the need to secure additional surface parking on the site, so you're able to use the site more efficiently, instead of having an additional surplus of parking during peak periods to meet the zoning requirement. You're actually using the property more efficiently on the basis of the character of the proposed use. So I would submit that the variance does meet the 4 tests, and would welcome any questions you have.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Barton. Any questions or items of clarification of Mr. Barton at the time? Go ahead, Mr. Towski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My question's more for Mr. Westerhoff, but Mr. Barton's welcome to comment as well. I have no issue with approving this variance. I think the applicant's done an admirable job seeking that off-site space to essentially comply with the bylaw. But my concern is the no conditions. So as I read the staff report, staff supporting this, at least in part, because of the license agreement with the adjacent owner. If that license agreement did not exist, and it was a straight variance application for 9 instead of 19 units, would staff be supporting this? And I ask that because the variance doesn't go with the user. So if Mr. Barton's client, great name by the way in the company, left the building, another gym could come in and they'd be allowed to have a gym on that property with 9 parking spaces, period. So if staff would support this without the license agreement, that's one thing. But if staff's saying, that's why I read the staff report, that the support's in part because of that agreement, don't we need a condition that says the approval expires upon the expiry of the license agreement between the gym and the adjacent owner and or their successors? Because otherwise we're basically letting any other sports facility go in anytime in the future with only 9 spaces. So I think we need a condition if staff's support is based on or partially based on that license agreement.
Yeah, through you, Chair. So I think the non-objection to the variance really is based on a number of things. One is that the transportation or the parking study, the parking justification report, needed to justify that the use as it's proposed can function, with the spaces that they have, and then they could use off-site parking, not as the principal reason as to why you can do this, but as a partial justification for that. And then, as you kind of mentioned, there's a sort of the difference between you have a legal agreement between a property owner and a tenant, a neighbor property owner and that same tenant, for those uses. So if in my opinion, as the planner who prepared the comments, I didn't see that there was a desperate need to have a condition tying this variance to this agreement. This agreement is in force until a time that they leave. However, if the committee wishes that a condition be placed and Mr. Barton agrees, I can definitely work with the committee on coming up with some language for that condition.
So, Mr. Barton, where do you sit on a potential condition that ties the variance to the agreement being in place? And the way I think it would be worded, if the gym changes hands and the property to the north changes hands, but they still have the agreement, that's fine. The gym leaves and the agreement's finalized, and the variance falls off the table, and the next gym has to come and ask for variance again.
Yes, my clients have the agreement secured, so their intention is that will be in place as long as they are a tenant in the building. So I don't think there's an issue with having that as a condition. I think I agree with what Colin was saying. I think the analysis kind of suggested that the agreement isn't required, but I understand what you're saying is if a different type of gym was to come along. So again, I think from my client's perspective, they've secured that agreement. So I don't think they would have concern with that being part of their approval.
So again, Mr. Westerhoff, I'm sorry to take up all the oxygen, but again, as I read the staff report, it was a combination of the traffic study and the offsite that allowed the town to support it. If that's the case, then I think we need a condition, and my suggestion wording is that the approval expire upon the expiry of the license agreement between Moorespear Inc. and Your Grade 2.0 Inc. or their successors dated December 8th, 2025. So that would do nothing for this applicant or have no impact, I don't believe, to this applicant. They've got the agreement in place, and as long as they're there, the variance stands. If they were to leave and another gym came in, they'd have the opportunity to renegotiate the agreement with the adjacent owner. But if they didn't, then the variance falls off the table and they start from scratch. But if staff saying, you don't need the agreement, we're perfectly happy with 9 spaces based on the parking study, then that's a different case. Then you don't need a condition.
Yeah, I guess the question to staff is if you're confident that that is the necessary amount of parking for that use, for that location, moving on into the future.
Madam Chair, maybe I can ask Mr. Barton if he has any concerns with the condition as I read it.
I have no concerns. I think what the owner has demonstrated is that in general, like their peak demand will be accommodated on the site and that the additional spots are there. So I think what we're seeing is this use will be accommodated certainly through the agreement. If there is any, one-time additional demand or whatever, it gets accommodated in that 10 spots off site. So I don't think there's any concern of the owner that that be a condition in place. My understanding from speaking with the owner is that the agreement's tied to their tenancy. So what you're mentioning, Member Toloski, about if another gym comes in, I think that agreement would expire automatically when a new tenant comes in. So I don't think there's a concern with the condition you're suggesting.
Yeah, that's my concern. The agreement expires and a new tenant comes in, the variance doesn't without a condition.
So there's no issue from my client's perspective with a condition that I guess effectively requires there to be that license agreement in place.
Mr. Dickey, while Mr. Collin is thinking. Go ahead.
I agree with the concept that there should be some type of condition there, and that would might answer another, not necessarily a concern of mine, but whatever. If a different type of activity that still falls under the definition of a sports facility were to come into that space, and we granted a variance, which for basically for 9 spaces on the site. But that other facility, if another parking study was done, it might not necessarily this. If it was a training facility, whatever goes on here, that's fine. But sports, the definition of sports facility, I think, would include other types of sports that may generate more people. So my concern is if that were to happen, there could be a parking problem. So if we impose the condition that the adjacent owner has to provide those extra parking spaces, then they comply with the zoning bylaw through that manner. So that's another reason for me to agree, is to have a condition that ties that all together. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Westerhoff?
Great. Through your chair, I wasn't aware you were looking to me for some more feedback. If the committee would like to see a condition related to this, and the applicant is more than willing to accept a condition tying the variance to the land rather than between 2 property owners, I think that's a very reasonable course of action and next step to impose.
No, and that's fine. Were you okay with the wording that Mr. Talowski proposed?
Yes, I am.
Okay. So, Mr. Talowski, anything else?
No, Madam Chair, and I'm trying to protect against exactly what Mr. Dickey said. For this gym, everything works. If it were to become, pickleball courts, where now you've always got one group on the court, one group just came off the court, one group coming up, waiting to go on the court, that's a different scenario than what we're talking about here. And I think the town needs some protections in place that, if that happens, there is additional parking available. And that's what the agreement does. And like I said earlier, I commend the applicant for going out and getting that agreement. I think it makes this whole variance work.
Agreed. Okay. Has anyone called with interest for this application, Madam Secretary Treasurer?
Madam Chair, we do have David Nelson, who is also an agent for this file, who has his hand up. I'm going to move him into the meeting.
Okay.
One moment.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the committee. I might be able to help you a little bit here. The zoning bylaw specifically requires what we call a zoning occupancy certificate for any change in use. So I think that would address the committee's issues. If this gymnasium leaves, anything coming in requires its own zoning occupancy certificate. And if it doesn't meet the requirements that we have put forward, it would not be allowed.
Okay, thank you for that clarification.
You're welcome.
Any questions of Mr. Nelson or Mr. Barton before we take the matter into committee? Does town staff have anything further to add?
Through your chair, no, I do not.
Okay, very well. Then we'll take the matter into committee. Go ahead, Mr. Talowski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, I think Mr. Nelson's comments just reinforce the need for the condition, because it would get an occupancy permit because they'd look at the bylaw and say the sports facility needs 9 spaces, period. So Madam Chair, I'm going to move this application be approved as applied for, finding that it meets the tests of the Planning Act. Based on the parking study and the offsite license agreement, I don't believe there's going to be an impact from this use. I would make that approval subject to a single condition, that the approval expire upon the expiry of the license agreement between More Spear Inc. and Your Great 2.0 Inc. dated between More Spear and Your Great or their successors, dated December 8th, 2025.
Is there a discussion on this recommendation and this condition? See none. All those in support? Okay, the application has been approved, none opposed.
Thank you.
Okay, have a good night, everyone.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
We have a attendant in the audience who's been watching the meeting, and I believe they were here for 273 Cairncroft Road, which was deferred. I'm just wondering if you could say a word or two about it being deferred.
Sure.
Thank you.
So which application was that?
273 Cairncroft Road, A/006.
Yeah. Okay, I got it. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So, okay, I don't see them, but I'm supposing they can hear me, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Actually, she's coming into the meeting, I believe. Oh. No, maybe you could just speak in the
Okay.
three.
Okay. Whoever is in attendance for application 006 of 2026 at 273 Cairncroft Road, the applicant has sought a deferral. The application has been deferred to work with staff. So they will be coming before the committee at a later date, and you will get notification when they have submitted for a new hearing date. I do recognize that there were 4 letters of support. If you are one of them, Leon Zhu and Yelin Yu and Dwayne Hurley and Maria Hushovad. I apologize if I'm pronouncing all of these wrong, and Arlene Hinchcliffe. If you are among those letters of opposition, your letters have been submitted, and you'll have an opportunity to resubmit them if the new proposal does not meet your liking and when you do get notification. I hope I've answered and clarified why this item was not heard this evening, and have a good night. Okay, the next item on our agenda is to confirm minutes of the December 10th hearing. Thank you, Ms. Price. Minutes are confirmed. And then motion to adjourn. Thank you, Ms. Price. We are adjourned at 9:24 p.m.